the albums you've been in, where do you find your inspiration and where do you find your motivation?
Just in life. I mean, to me, I find it's such a thrill that I get to do this for a living. I get to do music, I get to perform, I get to sing, I get to write and be creative as a living. It's something that my counterparts and other musicians dream of doing and don't necessarily get to do. And I'm lucky and humble enough to be able to do this. So as far as I'm concerned, I find my inspiration from that. The fact that I'm still hungry, I still have those desires to do it as I wanted it when I was 14 years old.
Isn't it a bit difficult when it becomes a job, finding the same enthusiasm?
You can't let it become a job. I think once you let it become a job, then you take the joy, you take the enjoyment out of it. At some point, I mean, of course you have to look at it as a responsibility. You have to look at it as, this is what I do for a living, so I have to earn, I have to go out and work. But on the other hand, I don't look at it as work. I look at it as life. I look at it as, to me, I would rather be on tour for 6 months than to be sitting on a beach for a month or sitting on a boat and doing nothing. I get more joy from actually working because to me it's not work. To me it's just living life. So it's, I still enjoy it that much.
How do you take care of your voice?
That's difficult. With as much as I work, it gets more and more difficult, and I have to actually stop myself from accepting too much work. The only thing when I'm on the road, which I'm constantly on the road, it's all about getting the proper amount of sleep and not drinking and not doing all the things that you normally could get away with when you were younger and you can bounce back. As you get older, it takes a little longer for things to bounce back, and so you kind of have to assist it and help yourself before you hurt yourself. And that's one of the things I key in on. I find I want to take care of this so it actually works into the future more than I want to just have a good time for that time, that period.
I keep getting this answer more and more. It looks like the old rock and roll lifestyle is not that important anymore. Do you find that?
Well, I never really lived it. I never got into drugs. I never really even drank much in my early years of doing it. And it's probably maybe one of the reasons why I still have, I've kind of preserved it. I still have a good level of my voice left. But one thing that could be just as devastating or deteriorating to a voice is just overworking with no rest. So I'm finding a little more discipline to say no to certain things, so I know I can get the proper rest in between the things that I can't say no to.
After the end of Talisman, you had a brief venture with Journey, which didn't really work out, so that didn't last long. But then since, and it was 2007, if I'm correct?
Yes.
You've been doing different projects, you've been doing your sort of thing, but you didn't have a stable, full-time, let's call it, band. Do you miss that?
Yes and no, because again, I get offered to do enough things outside of my norm, outside of my own career, outside of my bands and such, that keep me channeling things that I normally wouldn't do. Like TSO, for instance, Trans-Siberian Orchestra, is something I wouldn't normally do, but it's become such a fixture of my life and such like a sidebar in my career that it gives me something to channel in on that I normally wouldn't do, and I can actually put into something else. And I'm still learning, I'm still absorbing and getting things in music and different aspects that music have to offer that I'm always a student. I always want to absorb something that I don't already have in my curriculum. And that's what something like TSO I'm able to do, something like working with the guys in this WET project that I've been working with in Sweden. It just keeps me absorbing so much more and channeling things that I normally wouldn't be doing on my own.
About the WET project, I heard you're doing something else with them as a new album?
Yep, we're working on a new album now. I mean, I'm out promoting and getting ready to launch this one, but in the meantime, we're working on new material over there. So I'll be probably in the studio with them as early as March, while this one's coming out. It just never stops.
So you've got this one, then you're going to be touring this one, and then you're going to have WET. Are you going to tour with WET as well?
Well, luckily, I mean, that's one of the good things about being on the same label with WET and my solo career is the label know how to kind of put things in their own perspective. Okay, I've got this album, I got to promote it, I have to do the proper channels, so they're not going to throw a wet album out there immediately. They're going to make sure I get the proper time and the energy to put this out. And even if the wet album is done, they're going to wait to give it that, so they gets their time and gets their release time and not necessarily disturb each other. It's a conflict of interest if you put things too close to each other.
They're gonna make sure the wet and your solo stuff doesn't clash. But what about me time? Are you gonna have a holiday anytime this year?
Probably not. I'll have some downtime to not have to overuse my voice, but holidays I get bored. I go on holiday a week into it. I'm like, okay, can we do something? Can I go do a gig somewhere? I'd rather be creative and working on stuff, even if I'm resting my voice, than to actually just sit on a boat somewhere.
What would you be doing if you were not doing this?
I don't know. Probably be dead.
Okay.
I don't think I'd want to be doing anything else.
That's very extreme. Back to your collaborations, you've been working with some of the biggest names in rock music. Is there any name that you haven't worked with yet and would be your dream artist to jump on stage with you on a gig?
Yeah, I'd love to work with Nuno Bettencourt because I think he writes the way I think. When he writes a guitar riff, when he writes a song, I listen to it and say, that's what I was thinking, but I can't play that, and if I can't play that, I can't think that. But I love to work. I was supposed to collaborate with him on this album, but he was too busy touring with Rihanna and working on a new Extreme album, and it's unfortunate. But I think somewhere in the near future, I'd love to actually collaborate and work with Nuno. But another one, someone I haven't actually even met, and has been a long time influence of mine, and that's Prince. I think that would be very interesting to see what it would be like to work with Prince.
Back to Nuno Bettencourt, would you ever do something with someone completely different like Rihanna?
Something like that. Yeah, I never say never. When it comes to music, something like that I think would be great, especially because I like other aspects of music that I'm not necessarily doing in my own career, and to be able to do something that's completely different. Like Trans-Siberian Orchestra is completely different from what I normally would be doing, even though it's still in the rock arena. It has more to do with musical theater than it does to rock and roll or heavy metal. So, yeah, of course, I would absolutely jump on something like that, as long as it's something I really enjoy and it's something I feel that I would love to do as opposed to have to do.
As someone with a lot of experience in the music business, but still in touch with whatever is coming out now, 2012 has just started. What should we keep an eye on? Is there anything you notice that is worth looking at?
Honestly, I don't. I know what's already out there. I can't really say what's up and coming because I'm so thrown into everything that I'm personally doing. It's not. I'm not trying to be self-absorbed, but when I'm working on a new album, I don't really listen to anything else because I'm concentrating on what's going to be best for the album. And now that I'm finishing this, I'm actually going to Greece to work with a band, to produce a band out there, a band called Danger Angel. When I'm done with that, I'll be working with Wet. So I don't really have time to check out new bands and new up-and-coming things until it's already broken. So it's kind of sad in a way.
Time. We need more than 24 hours a day.
Yeah, I know. Or two of me.
Yeah. Do you think it's easier or it's more difficult nowadays being a musician with all the technology we have?
It's actually more advantageous, that's for sure. I mean, I'm a technology whore. I love anything that has to do with what's happening into the future with technology, whether it be the gadgets or the idea of 4G, 5G, fast Wi-Fi, and I love all that stuff.
So iPhone or BlackBerry or Android?
No, BlackBerry, not for me. Actually, I'm all about the Android systems now. I love those phones. It's certainly helping us because the record business, the music business is such a shambles right now as far as the downloading and all that stuff. It's kind of shutting down a lot of the corporation side of things, but it's also keeping us able to get our music out there. It's keeping us able to keep the flow of music and generating music and interest out there. So luckily we do have the one thing that actually killed the industry is also the one thing that's keeping us and the industry kind of going. And so I don't look at it as a negative. I look at it as it's a necessary evil. Evolution is a necessary evil. We have to evolve and kind of change, and nothing stays the same.
Okay, it's easier to put your music out there, but for someone like you who lives out of music, and it's your job after all, where do you make your money if music is downloaded illegally?
Well, clearly, if I sold 2,000 copies of a CD, but 50,000 people downloaded it illegally, I can book a tour, and I know that 50,000 people want to come see me do a gig. That's clearly the answer. And not that I'm telling people to, go out and get it for free and just come to my show. Naturally, I would hope that people would go the proper avenues to get the music. But if it means that you're going to get it for free and it makes you go, I want to see it live, you can't download my show live. You have to actually see it. You can't download the experience of actually being there. You can watch it on YouTube. That's not the same. You can get it on DVD. That's not the same. You cannot download the experience of seeing a live show. So I'm not going to shoot you down for downloading my album illegally, but as long as you come see me live, we're all good.
Peter Gabriel recorded his gig in 3D, and he reckons that's going to be the future. What do you think?
There'll always be the next stage and the next phase of what's going on, and 3D will be the next thing, and then something else will come along.
Can they replace the live experience?
You can never replace it, unless we're playing in somebody's living room. You know, it's well, that's probably next.
Okay, any word of advice for any young person who would like to be a musician these days?
I say the same thing to anybody that's young and dumb enough to want to try and be in this business. The same way I was. If you really want it, you're going to get it. And that's all I can say. Persistence is key in this business. Some people are lucky enough to get it overnight, within a couple of years, whatever you want to call it. And some people have to work at it for 27 years, like me. But if you really want it, if it's really in your blood and you can smell it in the air, then you have to stay with it, because that's the only way you're going to get it. If you think it's going to be overnight, it ain't going to happen. Or if you think people are just going to find you, it's not going to happen. You have to just stay with it and keep practicing and keep honing in on your craft. That's the only advice I would ever give anyone.
Thank you. Last words to your fans before I let you go.
I'm humble enough to do this for a living. Therefore, I am humble to the people who allow me to do this for a living. And that's the fans, whether it be somebody downloading it illegally or somebody coming to all my shows or somebody helping me spread the word of my music. That's thanks is not enough.
Thank you.
You're welcome.